So I'm going to start off with the basic letter A shape. It's going to be a blocky A. You can use serifs and a little bit more extravagant details with your letter. But for this exercise, we're just going to use a basic letter A shape to do this three-dimensional tutorial. And what I want to do is, before I start off, I want to select the area that I'm going to place the A. So we're going to place it a little bit in this area up here, so that as we cut out our sheet of paper, it's going to have a better effect. So we're going to do the letter A up in this area. So I'm just going to freehand at the beginning and just go off of, you could use a letter that you've already scanned off the internet or in a lettering book. So we're just going to kind of freehand this right now. And then once we have this freehand established, I can then go ahead and define my edges with a little bit more precision using a ruler. So right now there's no perspective. I'm not drawing the A in any sort of perspective. It's just a straight down the way you're seeing it right now. So nothing unique here. So I want to just try to make sure we have similar distance on both sides of the A. Draw this line parallel. Okay, so once we have the letter A drawn in, what we want to do is draw a perspective in down towards the bottom right. And what we're going to do is, you can get my book on how to draw basics to kind of learn more about perspective. We're not going to go into that in this video because it is kind of complicated and it takes a little bit of time, but you can check out, we're going to put up video up on how to do perspective. But the idea is there's a vanishing point way down over in this direction to the bottom right. So we're going to try to create these lines that converge to a point like way out over there. And so what I'm going to start doing, and I want to make sure that this side here, that we're going to see this plane here, this edge of the surface of the A. So I want to make sure that the direction that I'm pointing this in, it's almost like from this point here, if you go like a 45-degree angle from that, that's kind of where this is all going to converge. So if I just draw and extend these lines out, and right now if you want to keep them parallel to each other, that's fine. The vanishing point is just really far out there. So now we just want to determine how long and how deep our A shape is. So depending on how far, like if you want to do it short, you can have short. I'm going to do it fairly long, somewhere about here. So parallel line to that. And then I'm going to take this edge here and parallel line there, slide that over. And then now all I need to do now is take these edges here, points, and draw parallel lines from those over, and then don't forget this one up here. And then this line here will be parallel. So this line here will go up in this direction. And we'll connect that line. And then the lower part of the A will be parallel right to here. All right. So Now we can go ahead and erase. Well, you know what? We're gonna keep these extended lines because we're gonna add a shadow. Let's add a shadow just to give this a little bit more of a realistic effect. So from our A, we're gonna have our shadow in this direction. So our light source, again, in our How to Draw Basics book, you'll learn about light sources and how that affects objects and creates shadows. But the basics is, real quick, the light's coming in from the top left, and it's gonna cast a shadow down on this surface, and the A is sitting above our paper surface. So we want this to look like it's hovering over the page. So what I wanna do is, I'll take this and extend these lines out a little bit further. And I'm gonna say like right about here is where our A is gonna sit, so parallel to that. We'll go ahead and erase our lines in a little bit, but so our A is here. I'm gonna go from this point like this, parallel up. So I'm starting with the outer perimeter, so this edge here is gonna come and be parallel like this. And then when I take this corner, which is down here, if I draw a parallel line of this edge right here of the A, if I bring that down like this, that's gonna create the shadow on the sheet of paper, and it's gonna make the A look like it's hovering above. So now all I need to do is just elongate some of these lines here to find out where the point is, the intersection point, and then draw a parallel line up that way. It gets a little tricky to kind of to remember all of these spots. There we go. So this point here will be this edge here. So parallel to this, I'm going to shift that ruler over, get my parallel line like this, draw that up, and then this edge here, I'm going to come up like that, and I want to locate this. So if I draw and extend this line right to here, then I know this point here will be this edge right there. So parallel to that edge. There we go. And then now we want to find the center of the A. So if we go up here, I'm going to draw these lines down. So if that line comes, we have that one indicated here, this one here, and that one right up there. So if we do something like this, we will get the center of our A. Just like that. So now we can go ahead and erase some of these lines. And if you want to go ahead and use like a marker or something that kind of really define your lines a little bit more truer, you can go ahead and do that. So the next step will be to shade in the A. So again, our light source is coming from the top left. It's going to cast a shadow. So any surface that's on this side of your shape will be darkest, and anything on this top left side will be the lightest. Again, you can find out details of shading techniques in my How to Draw Basics book. So we'll go ahead and just start lightly shading in some of this. So I'm going to start with this lowest section here, and I'm kind of using the direction of my shading technique in the direction of the surface. So I'm actually going the way the surface is in this direction. That's kind of how I'm applying my shading. So this surface here will be, you can kind of darken this up a little bit. Same for inside here. And I'm using my finger. You can see there's different techniques that you can use, but I found, I kind of use my finger as a bumper. They kind of stop. To stop so I don't extend beyond this line here. You can also use, if you want to put your ruler in place, you can kind of do that as well to get that to kind of stop. All right, and then lastly, I'll get this edge here. This is a little bit longer of a path, so this one will be a little trickier. So remember also, you don't want to put your hand and have your palm of your hand kind of go across. You want to try to keep your hand off of where you've actually used this, kind of graphite material from the pencil, because that'll start smudging and you'll start getting all kind of like weird dirty spots, and you'll have to go, it's okay if you do, you'll just have to go in later and just kind of erase it. So it's, if you can just be a little bit careful at the beginning, you'll save yourself some time at the end. So I'm going to try to make this surface here the darkest, to really pop the A off the page. So just keep building up your shading slowly. One of the things I kind of teach is not to go too heavy and with too much pressure right out of the gate, because if you commit to something too dark early on, it'll be a little bit harder to recover from that. So kind of slowly build up your values and darken and deepen those values. At a slower rate, it'll just have a little bit more control, and you can kind of balance the shading you have here with the one over here. So I usually start with a little bit lighter tones and then go to the deepest, rather than going dark and then kind of backtracking to lighter. So it's easier to apply darker than it is to kind of remove the darkness and erase and lighten it up, especially when using pencils, things like that. So there we go. I was just going to kind of darken in a couple other areas. I'll probably get this surface here as well. Just darken this one up here just a little bit more to kind of pop that surface. And it's okay to go in different directions. You can cross-hatch, there's stippling effects, things like that. My book also kind of takes you through that if you guys want to take a look at that. Definitely very helpful if you're just starting out wanting to learn how to draw. You can go to my website and pick up a copy. I'll put it up here on the screen so you can see a link to it. But it's definitely a handy book. You sketch inside of it, has simple step-by-step instructions. So if you're a young kid, just somebody just starting out in drawing and design, you want to kind of get to understand the basics. It definitely really helps out. All right, so we have our A drawn in. We've shaded it. And I'm just going to hit this one last point here just to kind of separate this bottom surface from this side surface here. a little bit more contrast there, just to kind of separate so they don't kind of blend into each other. Same for this edge here, this surface. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So now let's go and shade this guy in. So I'm just gonna use kind of like a darker gray for this purpose. I think you can go and use black if you want. And you know what, I'll just do that. Let's go ahead and just use black. So I'll go in with a Sharpie just so this contrasts nicely on screen. So I'm gonna go and just trace my letter A where the shadow is. And remember, when you're using a marker, you want to make sure you're picking out the right lines, because if you pick the wrong one, you'll end up having a little bit harder time trying to recover from that if you make a mistake. So just be careful when using markers. Not that you can't recover if you're trying to do something really precise with a lot of precision. Yeah, just want to take your time. All right, so we have our letter A that's hovering and floating. We've cast a shadow onto the paper surface, and now we want to create that 3D illusion. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to cut out some of the paper. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So we're going to take this edge of the A, and we're going to crop out the top portion here. And we're going to crop out this portion, so it's going to look like the A is coming off the page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this angle here, and I'm going to shift this over a bit, something like that. And then I'm going to draw a line here. That's going to be my line that I'm going to cut out. And I'm going to cut out this area here. And then I'm going to take the top edge of the A, I'm going to bring that like this. And almost the similar amount of distance, if you draw this and continue through, you want to try to get the same amount of distance from here down. So if I just extend that to kind of show you, and we're going to go from this point here down in perspective, so it's going to be right about here. So we'll go and then a parallel line to the top of the A over to this side of the page, and then we're going to crop out and cut out that part there. So you could do the cutting using an X-Acto knife. I'm going to just do it with these scissors, and we're just going to follow that line that we just created. But if you have an X-Acto knife, you could put like a cutting board down so you don't damage your desk or your tabletop, whatever you're using to do this drawing. It's the nice thing about an X-Acto is you can get really nice edges, sharp edges and straight edges using a ruler. This is just kind of freestyling it and freehanding it. And then I'll make this last cut here. There we go. So now we have our letter A, that you're viewing it from the top down. but I'm going to change the angle and show you what this looks like on the table. So it's going to look like it's on this piece of paper and it's coming off of the table.